This is Christina Morris with Get Healthy or Get Dead. I am joined today by Dr. Thomas Levy, author of many books. I just finished your book, Curing the Incurable, Vitamin C, Infectious Disease, and Toxins, which was an awesome book. I just love it. And I just ordered Primal Panacea and Stop America's #1 Killer. And I am currently reading this book, Optimal Nutrition for Optimal Health. So I'm doing I'm doing a Dr. Levy deep dive. So and I mean your website is a wealth of information. It's just so much. And I just had, after reading that vitamin C book, I had some specific questions that I wanted to ask you. So I've been working with pilots and with military people who have been vaccine injured from the COVID vaccine. And I just had a few questions regarding them and some other questions in general about vitamin C. So I'd like to start with my first question, which is, since pilots are exposed to ozone and radiation, what do you think the optimal dosage would be for them having vaccine injury, or also the ones who manage to escape the mandates?
Well, the first thing I would point out is not only is it a vaccine injury, it's vaccine poisoning.
Yeah.
Because it's not a one-off. Once the spike protein gets produced in your body, it's diabolical, because you, for example, could have an exposure to mercury one time, and you can come in with vitamin C and other things, repair the damage, and you're fine. But when you have a toxin that replicates itself, that's about as that's about as insidious and heinous as you can get. With regard to dosing vitamin C, you probably realize when you went through the book, Infectious Diseases and Toxins, that the dose of vitamin C depends on your endogenous toxin load and your continuing toxin exposure. So there is no one set dose that's good for everything. As you pointed out, or implied certainly, the pilots have some additional stresses they need to deal with, in terms of the decreased oxygen tension and the irradiation too. I think there's an irradiation factor as well. A lot of people don't realize that, shall we say, simple radiation or even toxic radiation, such as from radioactive materials, this, that, and the other, they still cause the same oxidative damage. So you still need to do the same sort of things to repair the biomolecules that have been oxidized and bring them back to what's called a reduced form. So everybody is massively underdosed on vitamin C, really, no matter what they take.
Yeah.
You have to start with that premise, because who knows how long ago we had the ability in our liver to make vitamin C. And when we look at animals comparable in size to the human being, like a goat, for example, a 150-pound goat, that goat will make 7, 8, 9, 10 grams, 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and directly release it into the blood. To get the equivalent of a 10, you're asking for an equivalent orally of a 10,000 milligram IV. All right. So already the amounts that you would need to supplement would be astronomical. Right. And then when you layer on top of that, the fact that when these vitamin C producing animals like the goat are subjected to a very large stress, a very large infection, a very large toxin exposure, they can start making 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 grams of vitamin C in order to deal with that. So the not intended to be sarcastic answer to your question is they just have to take enough. And taking enough is really something they need to determine, because when people have never dosed vitamin C ever, they really don't know what feeling good is. All right. So they've adapted to whatever their day-to-day experiences is. And over time, they've identified that as being normal for them. And then when they start dosing vitamin C for the first time, nearly everybody goes up a notch, vision gets brighter, mind gets brighter, energy picks up. And then, this is the important part, after having achieved that improvement with vitamin C, then they're able to much more easily perceive intrusions on that health. A new virus, a new stress, where they don't feel bad, but they don't feel as great as they did the day before.
Yeah.
And that's when you hit harder again with more vitamin C and some other selected supplements. As a very practical answer to your question, though, I would say something along the line for the pilots of taking, especially, and they should be taking it while they're flying, not just before they fly and after they fly, something on the order of 8 to 10 grams a day in divided doses.
Yeah.
Assuming it doesn't cause diarrhea, it should be in that range. And if it does cause diarrhea, then they should get the Live On Labs, and just Live On Labs, liposome encapsulated vitamin C, which will give them much better coverage than any other oral form, just taking a few grams of that.
And you're saying Live On Labs is a brand of liposomal vitamin C?
They're the first ones. They started it 20 years ago, and then everybody jumped on the bandwagon and had no interest at all in understanding a liposome or manufacturing a liposome. They just wanted the success that Live On had. And there might be a few other legitimate liposome products out there, but none that I know of.
Mm-hmm. And could you maybe discuss with the viewers the basically the gut test for vitamin C, like what your optimal range would be and how you would do that? You mentioned that in the book.
Well, everybody has a different bowel sensitivity, okay? I mean, there are actually some people that they take 500 milligrams or 1 gram and they start having loose stools. I think that can be overcome. I think that's probably as much an indication of a toxic gut as a vitamin C sensitive gut. And suffice it to say, though, that some people, on the other hand, who have advanced diseases, some cancers, can take 30, 40, 50, 60 grams of vitamin C orally and never get the loose diarrhea.
Yeah.
The idea is your body can basically decide how toxic it is and decide how much vitamin C to absorb from the gut. And when the toxicity has been properly addressed, then the remainder of the vitamin C goes unabsorbed, collects in the colon, and being hyperosmolar, pulls water into the colon and causes a loose stool, which is not a toxic side effect. That's important too, because this is a side effect that's good. It's a bowel cleansing side effect. You're actually neutralizing bowel toxins that you would have otherwise absorbed as well. So you see some of these articles where they're trying to do everything they can to undermine vitamin C, and they try to represent a loose stool for vitamin C as this horrible, debilitating side effect. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, we know how the medical profession is. They do everything they can to keep actual treatments at bay and try to prioritize profit with big pharma. So I guess a point that maybe our pilots should know if they're listening is maybe try this test dose before they get into the plane and start flying, so they don't have.
Well, if they've never taken a vitamin C before, yeah, they ought to be working on it for a few days before the subsequent flight. Absolutely.
It's important to mention these things because some people don't think about these things. Yeah. And let's see. So as far as the population of the people who've taken the COVID vaccine, I know in the book you said probably the average, and this is without doing the test, but on average, people could take between the amounts of 3,000 to 5,000 grams of vitamin C a day. And I know that COVID vaccine injury has different manifestations, but maybe a general rule of what a good starting dose would be for someone with these inflammatory issues, because we have cardiac issues, neurologic issues, autoimmune issues, turbo cancers. What would be maybe a good preventive dose for these people?
Well, I would say a minimum of 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams 3 times a day. So at least 6 to 9 grams a day. And feel perfectly free to take a higher dose, but I would make that a minimal dose. And again, I will say to anybody listening, yes, I am a consultant to Live On Labs. I've been with them for 18 years. They've been around for 20 years. And I only got involved with them because their product blew me away. It did things I didn't think were possible to do with vitamin C or a supplement. So having said that, I will reemphasize that, especially like a pilot or something like that, the other thing that the liposome vitamin C Live On does is it doesn't have a bowel effect. So there's no chance of having the loose diarrhea effect, even if he's getting on the plane or she's getting on the plane for the first time and popping their Live On Labs a liposome vitamin C for the first time. That's one of the more marvelous effects, or a lack of effects, that it has. Is it gets completely absorbed and then puts most of the product directly inside the cells rather than just in the bloodstream.
Is it because it's not ascorbic acid in the other form of vitamin C? Could you maybe talk about that really quick?
I'm sorry, what do you mean? Repeat.
In the book, there are some forms of vitamin C that are more tolerable with the gut. And I can't remember what form you said, but I know.
Well, this is a delivery system of vitamin C. What's encapsulated is sodium ascorbate, but your gut doesn't know that because it's inside these little round fat globules that are actually like artificial cells. They were created in the 60s in the laboratory to imitate an artificial cell with a membrane that is actually identical to the membrane you find inside the body on a normal cell. So what's contained inside the liposome is never perceived by the gut or by anywhere it's absorbed until it gets inside the cell and releases the contents.
Yeah.
So in this case, in the Live On case, it's sodium ascorbate that's being delivered. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to remember. Sodium ascorbate, you mentioned the book, had less GI side effects than ascorbic acid. So I wanted people listening to be aware that there are different forms. And because I know, for instance, I had a conversation with a friend today who has autoimmune issues with her gut. And she's like, oh, I can't take vitamin C because I have stomach pain and I have terrible GI side effects. I'm like, it's probably the type of ascorbic or the type of vitamin C you're taking. So it's just a matter of educating people.
Well, certainly ascorbic acid could do that.
Yeah.
Sodium ascorbate, unlike them.
Right. And so that's what I was explaining to her. So I want people to hear that they know that
they have. But the liposome encapsulated, not at all, regardless of what is encapsulated. That's the important part. I mean, I've never seen anybody get an upset stomach on the Live On's product.
Yeah.
Which covers quite a few people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Do they have, because I want to kind of touch on pediatric patients really quick. Do they have basically a liquid form of it that is pediatric friendly?
No, they don't. Well, it's a gel like. It's
okay.
Not and it comes in separate packets. It could be put in jars, but then it tends to oxidize more rapidly. By putting it in individual packets and then keeping it in the refrigerator, it stays unoxidized indefinitely.
Okay.
So you don't want to buy something that goes bad on you very quickly. Okay. So in the case of little ones, I gave this liposome encapsulated vitamin C to my little girl since she was 2 years old. All right. And in their case, I just put it inside a little tiny yogurt thing, swirled around, and she loved it. It's very easy to take. Even the tiniest babies, you could put half a packet inside a syringe with a little bit of milk inside it, and just get it swallowed that way. I mean, there's no age too young for the liposome encapsulated vitamin C, which is also good because you don't want to have to risk. It's not a big risk if the child is sick, but you don't want to have to risk the upset bowel effect on the little one if they're already having all the other problems.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many childhood diseases that can be cured by vitamin C. So
like all of them?
Yeah, like all of them. Exactly. So
right.
I feel like it's very important for children to make sure or for the parents to make sure the children have adequate levels of vitamin C.
Right.
And you spoke about so many times in the book, this safety profile of this nutrient. So really people should feel confident they can't overdose their child. But as a nurse, of course, when you're educating people, it's handy if there is some sort of reference that you can calculate for people a milligram per kilogram dosage for pediatrics. Would you happen to have a reference for something like that?
Very, very roughly, because like I said, it's not a precise science.
Sure.
You can go by pounds, and something like a 20 to 30 pound toddler can take actually a full gram a day.
Okay.
All right. And a larger child, 40 pounds or so,
yeah,
can take 3 or 4 a day. And when you finally get into the more adult weight of 60, 70, 80, 90 pounds, it can be 5, 6, 7 grams in divided doses.
Do you think it's reasonable to assume that a child under 20 pounds would be safe with 500 milligrams a day?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
1,000 milligrams a day, is that pushing it?
No, not at all. Not at all. And, just give it with a favorite juice or fluid or something like that. And if you run into an extremely sensitive child or baby that gives you a little loose poop, well, then you know to back off the next time. But that would be the only downside, would be if you overstimulated their bowels, which would still take some doing, but would be possible.
Sure. This brand that you were speaking about, does it have a flavor? So would it be potentially an option for a parent to mix it in water and like kind of flavor the water? Because
no, that's how you do it. It's a gel, so it doesn't dissolve. It's just like honey, but it doesn't taste like honey. It tastes more like vegetable oil. Okay.
So it doesn't really have a good flavor then.
Doesn't have a good flavor. Doesn't have a bad flavor.
Okay.
It's sort of flavor free.
Okay.
And the thing is just like you said, when we're doing conferences or something like that, and they have the booth there, they have a little tiny cup, put a little water in there, squeeze a packet, swirl it around, and take it like the old shot, and you don't even know it went down.
Yeah, perfect. Well, because we don't want to get kids stuck on sweet immediately, when they're young. Because they start going down that course of being sweet addicted. So I always try to think of
and you can put it in smoothies and stuff like that. You just want to put it in afterwards. You could damage the liposomes.
Okay.
With the multi-thousand RPM machines. Okay, but if you make it and then you have a little bit of it, then you can squeeze it in there, and then just gently swirl it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. So going back to our military vaccine injured, I just want to help every single one of them. So there's a few issues I'm curious about with them. A lot of them are still being mandated for flu shots, which is ridiculous. And then
not the pilots, the government or the FAA. My God.
Oh, I know the FAA is horrible.
The FAA is already so negligent. It's amazing, the prolonged PR interval that they've declared as being normal. I mean, I wrote a letter. I wrote a big long letter to Duffy.
Yeah.
Okay, but I know he's busy. Every member of the cabinet is going crazy being busy, but I can help him make flying so much more safer with some very simple testing intervention. But maybe he'll eventually answer it. We'll see.
I hope so. It's so important because what they did with prolonging the PR interval is, in my opinion, criminal.
Absolutely. You take a normal range that's been existent for over 100 years, never been changed, and all of a sudden, so many of those measurements are going outside of the normal range. What do? Well, let's do more extensive testing. No, forget the extra testing. Let's just declare it normal.
Yeah.
And of course, the evidence is there that a significant increased chance of arrhythmia, sudden death, heart block, all associated with that when it's acquired in the context of having had so many vaccinations. Yes.
Yeah. You know what I also found interesting, just talking about the FAA, when you look at like the military flight regulations for the pilots, it is so much stricter for the military than it is for the FAA rules. When you look at what medicines they can and can't take, I noticed that recently, comparing the two, because I scoured the Army flight regs for a while to see what they could take without basically, being punished for taking supplements.
When I first got together with the Freedom Flyers a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, as a cardiologist, I just assumed, stupid me, that every pilot got a stress test.
Yeah.
No, all they get is an EKG. That's it.
Yeah.
And when you just look at this, when you look at the fact that all ideas of sex and everything like that aside, what's your most typical pilot? 55 to 60-year-old white male.
Yeah,
okay?
And probably are not even in shape. So that's a factor.
And what group is most commonly have sudden death from a heart attack? the 55 to 60-year-old white male
Sure.
without any previous symptoms.
Right.
50% of the time, the chest pain is their last symptom. All right, they just go out.
Right.
Now, why would you not do a stress test on that? An EKG tells you nothing. Well, an EKG only tells you that he probably didn't have a heart attack already.
Sure.
Tells you nothing than what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes.
Sure.
Okay, so, and then combined with that, a Holter monitor, because that's something else I talk about a lot, because with the spike protein, your main concern from sudden death is arrhythmia.
Yeah.
All right, VTAC, VFib. Well, let me tell you right now, you will never have a fatal arrhythmia if you have a normal Holter monitor test ahead of time. In other words, you have to already be having extra beats, ectopic beats with a certain frequency before you're ever going to have the ability to be provoked into that fatal arrhythmia.
Sure.
But they don't require that either.
Yeah. And it's also interesting. If they would just do simple things like have pilots screen and also put them on preventive measures, which would include diet, exercise, and specific nutraceuticals, they would be a lot further down the road for preventing having issues. It's the same thing with
this might be off the issues you're chasing, but it's very easy.
Yeah.
What the easy part is, you cannot have an arrhythmia.
Yeah.
If you have a normal intracellular magnesium level.
Sure.
Can't have it. All right. And if you're having any extra beats at all on your Holter, you're low on magnesium, no matter what all the other tests show, because the heart is the sentinel organ for manifesting whether your magnesium is normal or not. And you saw these soccer players all dropping dead on the field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what soccer players do? All of them do. Number one is they sweat a lot. And what do you lose when you sweat? A lot of magnesium.
Sure.
What's the other thing that they never do? Well, they're young and healthy, so they never supplement. So they're sweating like crazy, getting rid of magnesium, and they're never taking in more magnesium. And I guarantee you, every one of those that dropped dead on the field would have had a Holter monitor with multiple ectopic beats all over the place before they had that fatal arrhythmia. And only know that your magnesium level is normal is when you've returned that Holter monitor to normal.
Sure. Yeah, that's an excellent point actually you're making about magnesium. It is actually very simple. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you do regular screenings on people and make sure that they have proper nutrient levels in their bodies to prevent these, possibly fatal incidents from happening.
And the ironic thing is, though, is I agree with the screening part, but in the case of magnesium, the screening is not taking a magnesium level. The screening is doing the Holter monitor. That's the screening. That's the screening. And not just pilots. Anybody who's had the shot has had any cardiac, it didn't have to, you have to have the cardiac pains, but if they have cardiac symptomatology and they had the shot, you damn well better get a Holter monitor on it.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of go to, I was going to ask you a question actually, because the military personnel are still being mandated for ridiculous things like getting the flu vaccine. And this is probably, we've already kind of touched on this, but I just want to kind of drive this home because I come into this problem is something that affects many people, and they want to know how to prevent from having issues if they have to take the shot.
Sure.
Hopefully they could get an exemption, they wouldn't have to, but do you think then that making sure that you have proper magnesium levels, obviously, and then also adequate levels of vitamin C do you think
that's it?
Yeah,
you hit it, both of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I wrote a paper a long time ago that touched upon the fact that vitamin C will completely block all the side effects of any vaccination. Let me say a normal vaccination. I don't know about the mRNA vaccination. That's a different, everything before the COVID vaccinations, vitamin C would completely block the side effects. And the other thing too, and through some third parties, I've been making this suggestion through the MAHA movement with Bobby Kennedy, that at least in the short term, we're not going to win the anti-vaccine fight by being anti-vaccine. All right, we will lose that miserably. What we need to do is, because of what we just talked about here, with properly dosing magnesium and vitamin C for a couple days before and a couple days after a vaccination, you do two things. You eliminate any chance of a side effect, but here's the other thing. Vitamin C augments the antibody production against the that you're trying to get with the vaccination against the disease. So you can start a campaign. Don't even mention the fact that we're blocking side effects. Because when you say side effects, that implies there's bad stuff about the vaccine. So let's just let them be protected from side effects without anybody knowing about it. But just say we're having a new optimize the power of your vaccine movement. And don't even talk about blocking side effects. It's just, we have come together. Who's got anything against vitamin C and magnesium? With a combination of nutrients, we can make the vaccines even better than they've ever been before.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, actually. Got to beat them at their own game.
Yeah, you got to be. Well, you do. I will tell you this quite briefly. 25 years ago, I was in a group of people that helped block fluoridation in the city of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And to make a long story short, the city council had already bought the fluoridation equipment, several $1 billion, big investment for them, and then they're going through some hearings. And early on, we did the show them all the papers, show them all this, show them all that, because there's just an enormous amount of science showing how toxic fluoridation is. Didn't do a thing.
It's not a data argument. We all know.
Well, wait. Then we completely shifted gears and we developed what we called our info movement. Info standing for it's not fluoride. Okay, we just
we just had a little pause in the signal. You were saying it's not the fluoride.
It's not fluoride only. All they use stuff comes to the smokestacks of factories that produce pesticides, have a lot of arsenic, other heavy metals. So we say, hey, look, you're right. Fluoride is good, but you can't use this contaminated substance to do it. If you're going to use chemically pure fluoride, which of course is prohibitively expensive, and we won.
That's great.
Yeah.
On the note of fluoride, though, if you have adequate vitamin C levels, then you kind of block the toxic effects of fluoride. Isn't that correct, or do I have that wrong?
Well, the vitamin C is anti-toxic on all toxins, so yes. But you still don't want to be taking something that accumulates.
Sure.
Right? Fluoride, gets into the bones and everything like that, and it's not like a in and out type toxin. So, but it will block the effects, but it's better just to not take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fluoride free is great. And for the listeners who don't know this, they do actually have fluoride free tooth polishing substances at the dentist. You just have to make sure that they have that available for you. I just found that out, by the way. I had a couple more questions about toxins, actually. Anthrax. Are the toxic effects of anthrax neutralized with vitamin C?
Sure.
I thought so.
Let's stop right here for a second, because the book I'm working on right now, I finished it, I'm just polishing it off, is the title called Toxins Cause All Disease. Not an exaggeration. Now, what does that mean? This will come to your anthrax in a moment. When you oxidize a biomolecule, RNA, DNA, protein, enzyme, whatever, you take an electron away from it. Mm-hmm. That's oxidizing. Now, what happens when you oxidize that molecule, it no longer functions. Now, when it no longer functions, that's the disease. When you have a ton of biomolecules in different locations and different concentrations not functioning, that is your disease. It doesn't cause another disease. It is the disease itself. We talk a lot about oxidative stress causing disease. Well, yes and no. Oxidative stress is the disease. Mm-hmm. It doesn't cause something. Now, so then that begs the question as, If oxidation causes all disease, what causes oxidation? The only thing that causes oxidation is toxin.
Yeah.
So, and so then that brings you to the next step. If that's what disease is, and all toxins, that's what toxins do, then we can say, where are the toxins? Where do they come from? This, that, or the other. How do we eliminate that? And then that gives you your most effective treatment protocols.
Yeah. And, something else came up interesting last night when I was speaking with some of my military friends, and the subject of depleted uranium came up. And I was like, I bet vitamin C also treats the toxic effects of depleted uranium. I don't recall that specifically in your book, but do you have any information about that?
Sure. I mean, it's radiation from any source. The only way it damages is by oxidation.
Sure.
Even if it wasn't a molecule that oxidized, maybe it's a gamma ray that went in and knocked off an electron. The bottom line is it's the oxidized state of the biomolecule, which means if you could stop the radiation, I mean, it's something else if you ingest a radioactive substance that's continuing to churn inside your body. But if you have a one-time exposure to radiation, absolutely, vitamin C led antioxidant protocol will repair the biomolecules except the most extensive circumstances, bring you back to normal.
And if there is an impact on the actual DNA, because that was actually the question, like, will it reverse the damage to the DNA?
That would be a little less certain. Okay, yeah. Because yeah, I wouldn't be as optimistic on DNA repair.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was I think her main question or point was, I don't know if it'll actually impact that. But that's interesting to know, because anyone who reads your book will actually get detailed information about how vitamin C literally reverses and treats damage for any disease, any toxin, including chemicals, radiation. Also, how vitamin C protects the body against chemotherapeutics and radiation for cancer treatment. Although hopefully we're moving in the direction where we're going to start using more natural remedies for treating cancer and doing cancer prevention to hopefully get people not so reliant on using chemo and radiation if they don't get to that point. But I was also curious, because you have so much information on your website. It's literally a plethora of an encyclopedia of information. Do you happen to have like a book or an index where you have your treatment protocols all in one spot for a quick reference?
I put together a large lecture series that when you open my website, it's the first thing that you see that has been recorded. It is for sale, and that covers that. But for the most part, this next book that'll be coming out in a few months will cover that, perhaps even better.
Great. I really liked your...
And also the articles. If you look at the article, they talk about heart failure, treatment failure, okay, and then they go into a description of the pathology, and then a long list of how you treat it, how you detoxify. Same thing for atherosclerosis, heart attacks, same thing for breast cancer. So all of those articles, within each article in an orthomolecular section, usually presents a problem and then shows you the way to go about resolving it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. So I'm glad that now people know where to find those treatment strategies. I really loved your post-vaccine treatment protocol, because you actually included two of my favorite things, hyperbaric oxygen and methylene blue.
You know, I think hyperbaric oxygen is one of the most phenomenal therapies available. The only trouble is availability. There's not that many users, time investment, and money investment. You know, availability, time, and money. It's just, you know, it'll be hard to ever compete with something where you walk in, get an IV injection, 5 minutes, and walk out. You know,
right?
Everything else, but no, I mean yeah, I did a whole bunch of hyperbaric about 20 years ago and got into that quite some time. It's a pretty marvelous. It is still not appreciated. By that I mean, persistent spike protein aside, it still amazes me how many doctors Well, nothing amazing about toxins anymore, but it still amazes me how many doctors end up chopping off limbs before they ever do hyperbaric oxygen.
Yeah.
For infections, gangrene, everything else like that. It'll stop at dead tracks.
Yeah. And stroke patients and PTSD and depression. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It should be implemented in stroke protocols and hospitals across the nation. But
it's always the go-to for an infection you can't get rid of.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, so and that's ultimately what's going on when they're taking off gangrenous limbs, is a deep-seated infection they just can't resolve.
Yeah.
And, yes.
I wanted to ask you one more thing. I almost forgot to bring up. I love this. There was something I read. Maybe it was either in your book. No, it was in your book. You had spoken about vitamin C and vitamin E as protectants for sunburn, because we know sunscreens are not safe. They are actually toxic to the body. So I was wondering if you had any recommendations for people who, maybe we're trying to avoid using sunscreen. Maybe there were some blends that you were aware of that had vitamin C and vitamin E in it with maybe zinc oxide, or the dosages for vitamin C and E for people.
They have products out there with vitamin C in them, but let me tell you, about 15 years ago, myself and 3 friends were in a little Caribbean island, San Andreas, and we just burned the hell out of ourselves. We were like, 4 beats at the end of the day. And I said, wait a second. I was just had been with Live On Labs for a few years. I said, I have something that might help. And I went back to the room. And when I was going to the room, I was thinking about taking it orally. And then when I came back, I said, orally, let's just smear this stuff right on the skin.
Oh, smart.
And we did. And within 1 hour or less, there was 100% pain relief on red burned areas. And the next day, those red burned areas were back to normal skin color.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, I mean, that's all sunburn is a direct thermal high oxidation injury.
Yeah.
And that probably proved the liposolubility of the Live On product more than anything else. It just sucked right into those cells and immediately neutralized all the oxidation.
Yeah. Do you think that in that situation, since the skin is burned and immediately putting on something that is an antioxidant, do you think that would reduce your risk of skin cancer, melanoma, or is that
absolutely.
Okay.
No question.
Because I know people don't understand the importance of getting outside and getting the full spectrum of light, and the suggestion that I read from you and also from Dr. Jack Cruz was to go out in the morning and do, build up your sun resistance without sunscreen, without sunglasses. And, doing that, even fair skinned, you start building up the layers of melanin, and melanin is actually protective as well.
Well, the Lipo-C is orange and sticky, for one thing. But when you stop and look at what some people do to their nose, turning them white with zinc oxide,
yeah.
I think they'd be better off turning them orange with the Lipo-C. You just might not want to put it all over your body.
Well, no one wants their nose white either, to be honest.
Okay, well, a lot of people don't, but they still do. I don't know. I never had one, but I guess a nose burn is especially bad.
Yeah, well, I surf, so we have to put on something when we go out there. So we usually smear in zinc on our faces and on our limbs just to keep from having that major sunburn. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. It has been a very interesting and enlightening conversation. And I hope more people read your information and your protocols and read your books.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate talking to you.
Thanks so much.
Okay.